I'm Sarah. I'm 31. We live in Brooklyn together in Williamsburg, and I work in digital marketing.
I'm Maciej. I'm 38, and I work in a social media startup.
How'd you meet? We actually met at work at a small startup in Brooklyn. And, we've developed a really strong friendship when we worked there together. We had lunch together every day. And after I left the company, Maciej and I reconnected and we went out to dinner to celebrate my new job. And Maciej had just been on a big business trip to China. So we were just getting together to catch up and hear about it. And I was secretly hoping that it was going to be a date, but wasn't 100% sure until then. And when we went on the date, it was a date. Spoiler alert. We've been together ever since.
What drew you to each other in the beginning?
I feel like Maciej just ever since I met him, and I said this in our vows, I just knew that I wanted to be in his orbit. He was fun. What you see is what you get with him. He's really honest and funny. And I just really enjoyed spending time with him when we worked together. We had lunch together almost every day. It was a really small startup. So we just really got to know each other on like a personal level. And even though we didn't start a relationship romantically until I left, it was clear to me that Maciej was just a really good person with strong values and that we aligned really well. And we do have pretty different just personalities and interests in life, but I think I knew that we shared like those same core values at our core. So those pillars were really there and set us up for success, I think. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Obviously, he's very attractive.
Sure.
And yeah, no, I think we just had a really strong friendship in the beginning and we had a lot of fun together.
I think, yeah, we had a really good connection already. We worked pretty closely together, so we had just a good rapport, a good vibe. We almost like had a shorthand. So I think it was very natural. Like Sarah left for another job, and then we reconnected, and been together ever since. So
How would you describe your relationship dynamic?
We had one of our best friends as our wedding officiant, and in his speech at our ceremony, he said that we're like yin and yang, and I had actually already also written that in my vows too. I think, Maciej is more introverted, not in an antisocial way or a shy way, but you just really rest and recharge, more by yourself. And I'm a very social person. I'm a social butterfly. I need to be around people all the time. We really balance each other out in that way, I think, in our relationship. And yeah, I think that we really do just have this balance of like a yin and yang together. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah.
Did either of you grow up talking about money, marriage, or prenups?
Money wasn't a topic in my family growing up very often.
Well, money was a huge topic for me growing up because my mom is a CEO of a credit union. So I was aware of money. We grew up with we definitely lived within our means, but my mom being very financially literate was a really big blessing. She educated us a lot on savings and the importance of saving and just, how to manage money correctly. And, I am probably more of a spender in the relationship than Maciej for sure. So my mom probably isn't too happy about that. But I think having, parents who were really financially literate was really helpful for me growing up.
Well, let's talk about the proposal.
The proposal was, I think, really special. So got our ring together, so she knew that a proposal was coming. But I kept trying to throw her off the scent. So I told her Q4 is too busy. We can't really get engaged right now. We'll do it the next year. And secretly in the background, I've been planning with her mom for almost a year to surprise her. So she was on a trip to Hawaii with her mom for a work conference, and I flew out without telling her all the way to Kauai. Her cousin lives on Kauai. So we kind of coordinated. I stayed with her cousin, and they made plans to go scuba diving that morning, just in a little like private hidden beach on Kauai. And I was there like in a rose petal circle on an empty beach in Kauai, and she had no idea. And we got engaged.
I know. It was amazing. My mom, it was this really steep hill down to the beach and she had like a bag and her phone. And I was like, Mom, like, put your phone away. I was like, let me take your stuff. And she was like, no, I'm good. Don't touch me. But she was like filming the whole time. And I was so surprised to see Maciej on that beach. But yeah, it was like the ultimate surprise. And I was so, so, so happy to see you there. And there was no Wi-Fi on the plane. Tell that part.
Yeah, so we kind of thought through everything. So I turned off Find My Friends. I told Sarah I was really busy at work, you know, trying to throw her off the scent. But then during the trip, there was no Wi-Fi on the plane. And apparently she'd been trying to get a hold of me the whole
It
time.
was like a 10-hour flight direct from JFK to Honolulu. And I like went through like every panic. I was like, he died. He doesn't like me anymore. After 6 years, he's ghosted me. I was like, what is happening?
And I got to the airport and I turned my phone on after the flight and I had like 50 text messages, all of these voicemails and missed calls. So I was loopy and jet lagged from the flight. I had to call my mom, figure out what she told Sarah, call Sarah's mom, figure out what she told her, and just kind of coordinate the story. And I just said that my phone wasn't holding a charge and I had to go to the office. I was in the office. I couldn't get to the Apple store. So, I'm just getting a little bit of service. Sarah totally bought it. And yeah, but actually I was in Hawaii.
And
So
I'd even emailed you. It was like, are you okay?
yeah.
When did the idea of a prenup first come up and who brought it up and how?
Obviously, Sarah and I love each other very much. We just got married. We're obviously planning to stay together forever. That's what you go into the marriage with the intention of. But we also just wanted to prepare in case things, for whatever reason, didn't work out. We just wanted everything kind of spelled out and not really have any guesswork. We wanted to understand what our financial situation, but also like how things would work if things ever did happen.
Yeah, we wanted to be really intentional about, conversations about money and finances, but also just about, yeah, in the event of, an unlikely event of a separation, how that would be handled. My parents are divorced. And, I know a lot of people who have been divorced, and, it's not something that we're obviously planning for. But I think to be the smartest about, our choice, it was important for us to have that conversation, to be on the same page going into it. I think it also just allows couples to have conversations about money that they probably normally wouldn't otherwise have. And we were able to really customize like every term that we wanted to be tailored to us. Yeah, we each listed things that we were comfortable with and wanted. And then, we were able to chat through it together and talk about what it meant and, what that looks like for marital property and our savings and like what that kind of plan was going to be versus money that we make on our own and how we're comfortable spending that money. So we both didn't want to limit each other, but we also wanted to make sure that we as a couple were preparing for our future together. So I think, beyond just like divorce planning, I think it also allows couples to talk about like your intentions going into the marriage and like what spending looks like and what savings looks like and how is that money allowed to be used in your relationship and what's it going to go towards. So those conversations were good to have too.
Can we talk more about that? How a prenup helped you communicate as a couple for your marriage?
Yeah, definitely. Using HelloPrenup was so easy. It was a great service. We were really able to easily understand every term that was laid out. We're not lawyers. We don't have like legal backgrounds. Reading through long documents would have been taken us a long time. We would have needed help and support. We've been low-key calling this TurboTax for prenups just to our friends. Yeah, using Hello Prenup really just allowed us to be on the same page about how we were going to spend money in our marriage and how much we wanted to put into savings, what kind of marital property we were going to contribute to in our relationship. Like I said, I'm probably more of a spender, and Maciej is definitely more of a saver. Like prepared us in a more professional way to go into something like marriage where we had these terms that we were talking about, like how much money each month we're going to contribute to our savings. We have a joint account. What's it going to be used for? How much are we comfortable taking out? And what's it going to be going towards every month? And we hadn't had that conversation before, in just a normal relationship. We each, we both are working professionals. We have our savings on our own, but I, have been to a lot of weddings, a lot of bachelorette trips. I'm more of a spender than Maciej is. So I think it prepared us both to, just keep a savings in our relationship. We hadn't previously had one together. think we started our joint account, when we got engaged, which was kind of like the first financial step that we took. So understanding how much money is going into that every month and what we're allowed to use it for was kind of the first step in our financial journey.
How did you find HelloPrenup?
Trying to find somebody to do our prenup. Sarah and I, when we got engaged, we very early on decided that we wanted to do a prenup, but finding the right person or the right fit was really difficult. So we started with obviously a Google search, and we looked at prenup lawyers in and around New York, but it was hard to kind of find somebody just off of links who was qualified and would do a good job and who we would trust. The next thing we did was we kind of asked around in our network for people who've used lawyers before for prenups or who had some referrals. So I think we got 2 or 3 people, and we had some initial consultation calls. But I think what we found was the prices were just kind of through the roof. Everybody was quoting us like minimum 20,000 if it's not a complicated kind of agreement, and that was each. So we each needed our own separate attorney. So we're doing more research online, and we found HelloPrenup, and I think it was just in that sweet spot of, social proof, like the reviews were really good. And also the economics made a lot more sense than all of the other options that we've seen.
Yeah,
So,
we were able to go through it and kind of save our progress as we went. It was something that we felt like we could do on our own time. It was easy to understand. At first we were surprised that we could do something like this with a solution like Hello Prenup. And as soon as we started it, we were like, why isn't there more of these? We did look at one other solution, but I think it was only available in a couple of states. So we were really excited that we found Hello Prenup to be available for us in New York. And we had some specific terms that we wanted to discuss just about different assets that we had and making sure that we were on the same page about what happens with them. So we both had some just bullet list items that we were really able to easily customize through our service and our agreement. And that, from there, we did need to work with 2 lawyers, which was so easy. I loved the person that I worked with, Janine. She was so responsive and quick. She was like, anytime I messaged her, she would write back within like 5 minutes. She was amazing. You're nodding like you might know her because she's incredible. And she just really guided us through the whole process. And Maciej had a great attorney as well. We went back and forth like 1 or 2 times, but it was a really quick process. And chatting on the phone with them was really easy. We felt like they fully understood the platform. They were interested in our story just beyond kind of like the legality of the agreement. And we just really felt like it was an easy and personalized way of accomplishing this task that, for some people could be really scary and daunting and that they might dread, especially when money can be a challenging topic. So to be able to accomplish it quickly was really, really nice. And then tell them
that was
about the
good.
notary
Wait,
because that was also
wait.
so easy.
But also, I think the site was really comprehensive because or I'd already done the research about all of the components of a prenup. So, assets before marriage, assets during marriage, debts, what we wanted, like potential alimony to look like. We kind of had already gone through all of the different components of what would be included. And Hello Prenup had everything in there. Like everything that we'd gone through was already a prompt in the platform, including stuff that we hadn't thought about. So yeah, it was really comprehensive, kind of covered everything that we wanted in there in the agreement. So
What would you tell a couple considering a prenup?
I think it's a really smart idea. I think there can be a lot of stigma around prenups and, people think that it means the relationship is a bit unequal or that, you're kind of preparing for the worst. And I think it's absolutely the opposite. I think it's a great solution to have these discussions about your finances before marriage. I think it gets you on the same page about how you spend your money as a couple. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of if you are considering one. And I think it's a really smart thing to do overall before you dive into something like marriage, which, hopefully is for life. And that's our intention. But it can save you a lot of headache down the line. And it also really prepares you just, to live on the same page, I think. yeah, I think you wouldn't otherwise have conversations about how you spend money. And, if you don't do a prenup, you might be surprised by some of, the rules in your state when you do get married. And if that can be a point of contention, it's good to avoid that if possible.
Would you suggest if couples are doing research on prenups that they go to HelloPrenup, and like how easy is the process of signing up?
Yeah.
HelloPrenup's very user friendly. All of the prompts are there. They guide you through anything. So it's just very simple, logical prompts to go through, not a ton of guesswork. And I think it was also good that there were kind of explanations in a lot of the sections, like some things maybe are a little more technical, but there's resources there to kind of guide you to an answer. So
Yeah, I would definitely recommend using HelloPrenup as a service if couples are considering a prenup. Like Maciej just said, it was really easy to understand. There was not a lot of guesswork. There was real life examples. You could also track your partner's progress. So I loved that part because, with the wedding, there's so much to do and just going through each checklist and task. And I could see that Maciej and I were completing this at the same rate, or that I needed to catch up to where he was at so that we could complete it. And yeah, we found it really easy to use. And we would definitely recommend it to any couple who is interested. Yeah, I mean, it even outlined things that we hadn't talked about at all, like who gets the dog, me, obviously, but also what happens with our rings and how you would handle that, just things we never even thought that would be, that would come up. So it did prompt some conversation around if we were in this situation, how would we handle it? And we don't have children, but, down the line, if we did, it talked about that and, owning a home. And so it really just brought me and Maciej, I think, closer together and got us on the same page about how we would handle maybe some challenging situations.
Tell me about your dog.
We both love the dog.
So
All the story.
Sarah and I had been talking about getting a dog for quite a while, like at least a year. We were stopping people on the street, asking them where they got their dogs. Like we were making a plan for sure. And then Sarah left one Saturday to return clothes in the city. And I was on a bike ride and she calls me and she said, "I'm coming home with a dog. I found a dog."
I brought our baby home and introduced her to her dad, but she's so sweet. She's a little 8-pound Havanese poodle named Pesto, and she's so cute. I think getting a dog definitely teaches you a lot about your partner and how they handle like caring for another being and how they care for you and how you, kind of share in this responsibility of taking care of something. And I think it kind of took our relationship to the next level that I get the dog if we ever break up. When using HelloPrenup, there's a pet clause. And it was really important for us because Pesto is we cherish her so much. We treasure her. She's a valued family member. And it was really important to consider her in our relationship as we were taking this next step. And it really easily outlined any terms we wanted to have about her, co-parenting relationships, should that ever come up. And to make sure that she was considered as a part of this was really important in the process.
How do you feel about your prenup now?
When we completed that off the checklist, it was a great day.
Taking weight off the shoulders.
HelloPrenup has an integration for a notarization service called Proof and directly in their platform. And, when we'd finally crossed that finish line of finishing our prenup, the document was signed, there was a lot of anticipation just to get it fully to the finish line. And we found it so easy to use the notarization service. It was so quick. It took like under 5 minutes. The person who helped us was really kind. We were just so surprised by how fast it was. And I think Maciej actually did a happy dance when we completed it. We've been advertising this to all of our friends, honestly. You've gotten good word of mouth through us. I'm like, why would anybody pay more than this for this kind of service? It doesn't make any sense to spend what could be your entire wedding budget on a piece of paper that stresses you out so much. Like having a service that's really affordable takes off so much stress in an already stressful time for couples. And I've been telling all of our engaged friends to go out and try HelloPrenup. So go to HelloPrenup.com and sign up.